Looking for a delicious, fresh family meal that's ready when you are and easy on your budget? Welcome to Piara Pizza. We make our pizzas with handmade dough, 100% real cheese, and tomato sauce blended with our own spices. Nothing is ever frozen. We always have large pepperoni and cheese pizzas fresh and waiting for you for only $5. Or choose one of our specialty pizzas. We have veggie, meat lovers, supreme, and Hawaiian. Add an order of our amazing hot wings, cheesy bread, or breadsticks. Our locations are ultra-modern, ultra-clean, and open 7 days a week. Visit any one of our locations today, or check us out on the web at www.piarapizza.com. Piara Pizza. Fresh, hot, and ready for you when you come in. Stop in for your Piara Pizza today.
Welcome to Sykes Accounting and Consulting Radio Show. I am your host, Anthony Sykes. Welcome back to RantRadioNetwork.com. I'm Anthony Sykes, and we want to hear from you. Give us a call at 855-693-4897, or send me an email. Again, I'll answer it on air on the next show. But my email address is asykes, S-Y-K-E-S, at sykesaccounting.com. Now, what I was last talking about was the alternative minimum tax and kind of how it worked. There's 5 facts you should know about it. The first one we talked about, and that is you're going to pay this in addition to regular tax. What alternative minimum tax is, it's an extra tax. It's the government's way of trying to make sure everyone pays their fair share of tax. The second, I talked about the different exemption amounts. Those now have been kind of set. The third, it's to ensure that individuals and corporations, if they claim a lot of extra deductions, that they're going to pay this tax. So whether you file a paper return or e-file your return, alternative minimum tax is designed to make sure that everyone pays some extra tax. In reality, it really kind of catches more and more people every year. That's why it is the second largest income earner for the IRS or for the government. The number one obviously is the actual tax rates themselves, but alternative minimum tax brings in the second largest amount of income. Now, what I like to talk about is, I said, taxes in itself is kind of it's well, I don't want to say boring, but it's a subject that's kind of dry. And I look around the world, I look around the country and try to find some oddball kind of tax laws, and I want to read you some. In New York City, if you're in New York City, and sliced bagels, everybody buys bagels. When I went to New York, I found a place and had bagels, and they're good, little cream cheese and so on. But here's an interesting tax fact about that. If the bagel is sliced or prepared, there's a sales tax. If it's not, if you buy it whole and unsliced or with nothing on it, there is no sales tax. How about that? Durham, North Carolina, there's a pet tax, and I can kind of see why there would be. You know, you want to make sure that animals are well taken care of and don't you know, are not neglected. There's a $10 fee or tax if your pet is spayed or neutered, and it's $75 if they're not. Now, the state of Illinois, I really like this one, and you will too if you have a sweet tooth. All candy, I say that again, all candy in the state of Illinois is subject to an extra tax, and I guess what they're trying to do is help us wean off from that eating too much sweet. They're looking to our waistline and so on. However, if that candy is made with flour, there is no extra tax on it. Now there's only one candy that is, and that's those Whopper candies. You know, those chocolate balls with the crunchy center? Those the only candy made with flour. That's the only candy not subject to that extra tax in Illinois. How about that? We all like to celebrate those who are elderly and live a long time. Well, the state of New Mexico has gone a different way to do this. If you are 100 years old and you live in New Mexico, you are exempt from state taxes. So how about that? Now that's the place you should go retire, especially if you're 99 and a half. Here's one that you need to really think about. If you live in Maryland and Virginia or Virginia, there is a tax on flushing the toilet. That's right, there's a tax. I don't know how they collect it, I don't know how they deal with it, but there is a tax on flushing the toilet. Tennessee, and this one is an interesting too. It's an interesting one also. We all talk about one way to either reduce drug use or crime or something when it comes to drugs, and that's to tax it. Well, the state of Tennessee apparently has found a way to do this. They anonymously collect a tax. I don't know how they do it and what are the nuances of it. However, the latest information was as of 2006, they collected a tax of $1.6 million on illegal drugs. So have at it, Tennessee. Now, here's some weird and interesting things from around the world. I guess again, we want to talk a little about, well, there's one more I want to bring in, and that is in the state of California. The state of California and New York are always 1 and 2 when it comes to taxes. Gas tax, New York City was the highest, California was the number 2. And I guess they wanted to try harder. A couple weeks ago, the Board of Equalization voted to increase the gas tax in California by 3.5 cents. Well, that then takes it to 40 cents. The rationale for that is that because we, the driving public, have been reducing our consumption of gasoline, you know, fewer trips, more fuel efficient cars and all that good stuff, the revenues are down. So they need to bring in more money. What they do, they raise the taxes. Now that was set up by a former governor, and it was a budget balancing kind of deal. So it's set. It's sort of a trigger. When the income drops below a certain amount, the trigger kicks in. Gas taxes are raised by a certain amount. So we'll always have this no matter what. So next time you need to review some of those taxes we vote in, or pay a little closer attention to the state legislature on what they're doing. Now, I want to talk about some weird taxes from around the world. One of those, I like to think you really get a little bit of a kick out of. And I guess it's a sin tax here. The state of, I talked on that one, the state of Tennessee's illicit drug collection, witchcraft. In the United Kingdom, I have to read this for you. This one here is on prostitution. Given that prostitution is explicitly banned by the laws of many countries, it might come as a surprise that some nations not only allow it, but tax it. In fact, the UK's Daily Mail describes a particularly bizarre case of a teenage girl who auctioned off her virginity for, wow, 8,800, well, I guess $8,800 in euros, 8,800 euros. Apparently the going rate for a weekend of sex with an Italian businesswoman, while 18-year-old Romanian native Alana undoubtedly saw the transaction as a harmless way to score some extra money. German tax officials determined that their 19% value-added tax could land her with just over 3,000 euros to pay the pay in taxes before it was all said and done. Now, most European countries, instead of a sales tax, and they have what's called a value-added tax. So it's the value added from one product to another. If you have a pen and I buy this pen, I may not have sales tax unless I am the end user of the pen. The value added goes from the manufacturer to the wholesaler to the retailer, and at that point each one of them has some type of value added tax, and that's how they pay what would be called a sales tax. So everybody is sort of hit with this value added tax. Now, witchcraft. In the Netherlands, citizens are apparently permitted to deduct the cost of training in the fine art of witchcraft. In the article of the 5 most bizarre tax deductions from around the world, Margarita, as a tax-verified witch, citing Daily Mail's report on how she had successfully been deducting thousands of dollars in schooling. Schooling is a rather loose term, equating to courses that are held 13 weekends a year, closest to a full moon, when outdoor rituals are practiced and potions boiled. Among many skills and aptitudes honed during witchcraft schooling are healing with herbs and stones, making potions, and fortune telling with crystal balls, and needless to say, Dutch citizens and members of Parliament were none too amused. However, this seldom utilized deduction was not new. It is simply getting more attention. So if you're into witchcraft, maybe you should go there and take a look at it. One that I really found kind of interesting, in the United States, it's not allowed, but in Germany, the second discussed thing was rarely used in German's tax law permitted private businesses to write off bribes on their corporate income tax return. Well, we'll talk a little more when we come back on RantRadioNetwork.com. I'm Anthony Sykes. I'll see you after the break. You're listening to the Sykes Accounting and Consulting Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez.
And I'm Kelly V. Dolan.
And we are excited to announce our show Live with Aaron and Kelly is on Rant Radio Network. What do we talk about on our show, Kelly?
We talk about everything from entertainment to business and tech, and we have a few laughs in between.
That's right. Go check us out on RantRadioNetwork.com. That's RantRadioNetwork.com.
Check it out.
The experts know that for pastry, Baker's Bodega has it all. Exclusive brands like Westco Bankmart, Satin Ice, and Pastry Pride. One-on-one day seminars for cake decorating and gelatin art. So for our service, wide range of ingredients and supplies, and for the low prices, Baker's Bodega has it all. But you don't need to be an expert. Baker's Bodega, 7869 Paramount Boulevard in Pico Rivera. Come, we're waiting for you.
We are the Three Guys Rant with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's, the other one's illiterate.
You really should listen, then you never know what's going to happen.
855-69 3 Guys, Guys, and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Dawn Garcia of ATOD Magazine, and this is my brand new show, A Taste of Dawn, where we'll talk about everything related to savoring life. You can catch me on rantradionetwork.com every Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 1, where we're going to discuss food and wine, arts and entertainment, music, travel, leisure, and anything in between.
Welcome to Sykes Accounting and Consulting Radio Show. I am your host, Anthony Sykes. Welcome back. I'm Anthony Sykes. You're listening to RantRadioNetwork.com. Give us a call at 855-693-4897. I'd like to hear your tax question. I'd like to be able to help you save money, give you a tax tip. That's what this show is all about. It is helping you find ways to reduce your taxes and to file your taxes. And speaking of taxes, one of the number one issues IRS is running across, oddly enough, or maybe not, is identity theft. We see it all the time when someone steals your identity and runs up credit cards and so on. Well, now IRS is having an increasingly large problem or challenge with identity theft. I don't know how it happens. They don't know how it happens, but it could very well be the same way they've stolen an identity. They now use it for taxes. And why would someone want to do that? Well, because it can be very profitable. One way to do it, if you steal someone's identity, basically their social security number, you could create a W-2 or just have someone who has a W-2 who's working for someone, and you borrow 2-3 children and you file a fraudulent tax return. So these social security numbers are real. The income may or may not be real, but there's the child tax credit. If they're under 17, and they normally are, normally the ages are between 2 and 10 years old. So there's $1,000 per child for the child tax credit. And if the income for 2 to 3 children for a single person, so they could file head of household, which is a lower tax rate, if their wages or their self-employment income is below $36,000 or $41,000, if there's 3 or more, then the refund could be as great as $10,000. Now you're looking at some real money. So there's a real growing industry in stealing people's identities. So when you go to file your own tax return, IRS comes back and says, hey, you've already filed. You got, what are you trying to do? And you don't know, because you're saying, hey, I'm just now filing. I've had about 5 clients who have that exact issue going on, and it's fairly difficult to straighten it out. What usually happens, you have to fill out some paperwork, obviously, let them know that you are who you say you are, and set up a kind of password, so to speak, so on your next return, IRS knows it's you, and that other return is then rejected. But this can take as long as 18 months to 2 years to finally straighten out, and no one quite knows how these identities are stolen. I've had clients who who've been married for years. I've had and have filed joint returns. I've had people who were married and hadn't filed because they didn't have to. So it's all over the board. It's all over the place. So that's something to keep very aware of. So you should always keep your identity papers, your Social Security, and everything like that hidden. But IRS wants you to know a few things here. They want you to guard your personal information. Obviously, that's how IRS, how they get it. You're a little careless in letting it out. But one thing to always remember, IRS does not send emails. I get emails from IRS because I'm in this business. You, as a person who is not in the tax business, should never receive an email from IRS. And even when I receive them, because I'm getting information emails, they're more one-way emails. It's not an email like you send to your friend. This is an email that's sending me a newsletter or information that I want on taxes. Next, you have to watch out for impersonators, and this could be people who show up and may pretend that they're with IRS and wanting to gather some personal information. I have not seen that happen. I've heard of it happening, but always ask for the identification, and obviously, do you know what an IRS badge looks like? It should have the IRS seal on there, and it should show their name and a picture ID. And even then, if you are suspicious, tell them to give you a number and you will call. So they should give you the IRS number and you can call in. If you receive a call over the phone, and I have done this, I've received a call from someone who called what I thought were after hours, and that is after 5 o'clock, saying that they were with IRS. So I asked for their number and I called them back. I called them back the next day and went through the line, and obviously it was IRS. I got the IRS operator and so on. I don't think that it was an elaborate sting, because it turned out they needed some information that I had, and I was able to get that. But you always have to be wary and remember that you need to protect your personal information. Now, you don't want to answer any emails that you don't know where they're coming from, or open any emails that you don't know the sender. And even if you do know the sender, if it's not something, if they're not addressing you normally as they would, it's not an email that says, "Hey Anthony, you'll enjoy this." And most people who send me those emails, I know what they would use, how they would write that. So if it comes off that way, then it wouldn't be them. Another thing to know, if you think your identity is stolen, you need to notify IRS as quick as you can. So you call in and you tell them what you think has happened, and there's a form that you fill out and that form that you send in. So from that point on, it begins to move. They will issue you a new PIN number, or a PIN number, that you will put on all your tax returns, and that PIN number identifies you and you alone. So again, you have to treat that like a Social Security number. If you don't, and someone steals that, then you're going to be in a little more trouble. But by filing your return, your tax return, with that PIN number, once IRS receives it, they identify that PIN number as you, and then your return will be processed. Any other tax returns that come in, whether they use your name, your social, your address, or whatever, doesn't matter. I had a client, what they usually do, what they did in this particular client, they got so bold as they called up the franchise tax board and they changed the address so that the refund checks would go to that new address. I happened to be working on his behalf on something else, and I happened to call into the franchise tax board, and then they told me, well, I had the wrong address when I was asked to give his current address. So I had to have my client call and actually identify himself and prove that he was whom he said he was, in order to have the address changed back. So we just happened to catch this identity theft right in the beginning, and so they weren't able to file those returns and have money issued in his name. Now, going along with identity theft, it's not as I guess as it is as important, because if the tax return is filed incorrectly, then it's going to be held up, and it'll be held up for weeks. That is, if you happen to change your name. And normally we think of when you get married, the wife usually changes her name to her husband's name. Doesn't have to. I have clients who they have not changed their name, but I do need to know. Your preparer needs to know. Otherwise, you will have a problem. If you get married and you're using your spouse's new last name, you can do two things. You can hyphenate your last name, and if you do, you need to notify Social Security on what you're doing. And Social Security, then, however you set that up, you have to file your taxes just that way. If your name is hyphenated, so if it's Jones hyphenated Smith, then that's how you'll have to file it on the tax return. If you change your name to Smith from Jones, then Smith can be on the tax return. But if it's not, if it's hyphenated and you just put Smith on there, that return will not file. I've experienced that. My clients have forgot to tell me that they had a hyphenated last name. If you get divorced, now another way, and you're using your former last name, you have to notify Social Security that you're changing your name back, and you also have to do the same. And when I say do the same, however your name is on file with Social Security, that's how you have to file it with IRS. So always be aware. You know, if you're going from Smith to Jones back to your maiden name, that's fine. But once you notify Social Security, then you have to file the taxes the same way. Number 4, when you get a Social Security card and you've changed your name, you should get a new one. So we'll talk a little more about that when we come back after the break. You're listening to RantRadioNetwork.com. I'm Anthony Sykes. You're listening to the Sykes Accounting and Consulting Radio Show. We'll be right back.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez.
And I'm Kelly V. Dolan.
And we are excited to announce our show Live with Aaron and Kelly is on Rant Radio Network. What do we talk about on our show, Kelly?
We talk about everything from entertainment to business and tech, and we have a few laughs in between.
That's right. Go check us out on RantRadioNetwork.com. That's RantRadioNetwork.com.
Check it out.
This segment's sponsored by Mucho Macho Michelada. Whenever you got to spice up your beer, Mucho Macho Michelada is for you. Only real men.
Did you say mucho macho?
Mucho Macho, baby, where the real men come to drink.
Hey, I don't always drink michelada, but when I do, I drink mucho macho michelada.
If only Arvin could be a little more mucho macho.
Will it put some hair on my chest?
No, but te quema entrando y saliendo.
We are the Three Guys Rant.
With Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen, then you never know what's going to happen.
855-69-3-GUYS, G-U-Y-S, and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Dawn Garcia of ATOD Magazine, and this is my brand new show, A Taste of Dawn, where we'll talk about everything related to savoring life. You can catch me on rantradionetwork.com every Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 1, where we're going to discuss food and wine, arts and entertainment, music, travel, leisure, and anything in between.
Welcome to Sykes Accounting and Consulting Radio Show. I am your host, Anthony Sykes. Welcome back to RantRadioNetwork.com. I'm Anthony Sykes. I'd like to hear from you. Give us a call at 855-693-4897. Send me an email. I'll answer it on the next show. It's Sykes, S-Y-K-E-S, at SykesAccounting.com. Also, visit our website, www.sykesaccounting.com. There's a lot of things. Join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, but I'd like to invite you to sign up for our newsletter. I think it has a lot of good information, and it's free. It keeps you up to date on what's happening in not only taxes and maybe business, but also some everyday stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the cost of butter may be in another city, but we do have a wide variety of things. We talk a little bit about QuickBooks. We'll talk a little bit about some tax tips and things like that. Retirement, what's good for IRAs, a little bit of everything to kind of help everyone. And I invite you to take a look at it. Visit our website. Now, we were talking about how to change your name, and I want to finish up with that before I go on to anything else. And we last left off, if you were divorced and you wanted to go back to your former name, again, change it with the Social Security, and then once you do that, you can file it on your taxes. And in the case of everything, if you change it with Social Security, you can then use it on your tax return. The reason is simple, because IRS will check with Social Security if that is your correct name. That's why when you have dependents, your children, and sometimes your return doesn't process and it says we cannot find these children. They've checked with Social Security, they've looked for their birth dates, and if it doesn't match, then they deny you that dependent deduction. And that's the resource for IRS to find the correct name for everyone. If you happen to have several names, several middle names, then it is very difficult, because depending on which one the Social Security is showing, IRS is going to be picking that up. So keep that in mind. The next item on that is you can always go to the Social Security website, and that's www.ssa.gov, or you can call them at 800-772-1213. Now, another thing, if you've married and you have stepchildren and you're going to adopt them, you need to change their name, or if you've decided to change their name, you have to then notify Social Security, but there's also another form that you need to do, and that's a W-7A. So it's another step if you're adopting children, or if you are, or changing the name of your stepchildren, or even adopting a child outright, you have to change it with Social Security. So I hope I've given you a little bit of insight on how that can work. I'd like to get back to what our bread and butter is, and that's expenses, and how to help you, especially if you have a business. One of the things that one of my clients had asked me was how do you keep track of your deductions? He asked, which is better? Is it the mileage or the actual? He says, I keep all my gas receipts, but I'm not sure how I can keep mileage. And is mileage better? Well, it all depends, one, on how many miles a gallon you get in your vehicle, and two, how many miles do you drive, and how often or how much of a percent you use that vehicle in your business. If that vehicle is a work truck that you might use 100% of the time, you do need to keep a log, whether you use it 100% or 10%. You need to keep a log of that business mileage. So you get in the car, and let's say you're going straight from your home to your first job site, or you're going to a client or something, but you're going to do something that generates income. You're not going to the office where you might do administrative work or something like that. You start your day by putting in the odometer amount. This is what you should do. And then once you get there, you log those miles and say, okay, I've driven exactly X miles. Here I am at the Rant Radio Network studios, and now I'm doing the work that I do. When I leave, if I'm going to another client, or even if I'm going back to the office, I would log those miles from the Rant Radio Network studios back to my office. And those are the miles I have for my business miles. And I keep a log. Now that log can consist of a calendar. It can be a pocket calendar, and I make a notation. I've gone to the Rant Radio Network studios to do my show, and then I'm there, and then I leave. And I now can keep, I'm now allowed to deduct those miles from my office to the studio back to my office. It can be cumbersome if you feel that you have like several stops. So let's say you're going from point A to point B to point C, and then finally going back to the office. You still need to keep those appointments logged into your calendar or whatever, and you still should keep that mileage, but you can actually keep the mileage from the beginning to the end. You don't necessarily have to keep the miles from point A to point B if it's all business. You can keep the miles from point A to point C when you're back again, or point D once you return back to your starting point. So now the overall mileage is there, but again, it's what you're keeping track of. Record keeping in business is essential because you need to be able to show the IRS that you are you have the records in case there's an examination. Now, which is better? The standard rate, which happens to be for tax year 2012, I believe it's 55.5 cents, or the actual. So if you're buying, if you have a diesel and you're paying $4.60 a gallon, that might be a little better for you to have the actual. However, if you are, if you have a Escort, a Ford Escort or something like that, and you're getting 30 miles to the gallon, you're not going to be buying as much gasoline, but you're going to be getting a lot of miles. So you need to look at, again, the vehicle, the number of miles you're going to drive, and the purpose of the work, because you have to make sure that your work, wherever you're going, is justified for your business. Now, if you're claiming actual expenses, you might be able to depreciate your automobile or your truck. So that adds on to it. If you're just taking the mileage, you cannot depreciate your vehicle. So if that's a vehicle that maybe cost $30,000, you're depreciating over 5 years, that plus the amount of gas that you bought or fuel that you bought, it may make it a little better than if you're just driving, taking the mileage. But again, if you're driving 30, 40,000 miles for business, maybe the mileage is better. If you're driving maybe 10,000 miles, maybe the actual is better. So you have to be able to work that out both ways. Another thing that I have when it comes to my business clients asking me about what can they do, or what is taxable, what is deductible. Oddly enough, and we talked a little earlier about it, is types of pay. Now, is an award deductible? It's deductible, but do they have to include it in their income? Is a bonus deductible? The bonus is deductible, but the employee has to include it in their pay, and there's going to be taxes taken out of it. Now, the award may be for an idea or employee of the year. So once you get to that, that employee is getting this award because they've done something outstanding. The bonus could be for everyone because they help participate and make it a good year for the company. Education expenses. Now, if your company has a policy, or if you want to have a policy of having education, you can deduct it, but you can only deduct those courses that help your employee get a little better. I mean, do their job better. So that has to be the business related. It can't just be for basket weaving. It can't be, unless you're in the basket making business, of course, then it can be. But it has to be related to the business that you have. Now, we're running out a little bit. I want to have you join me for next week and tune in to rantradionetwork.com. Again, we're on from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Tuesday. Visit the website. It's www.sykesaccounting.com, and send me an email. It's asykes@sykesaccounting.com. Thank you, and this is Anthony Sykes signing off. You're listening to the Sykes Accounting and Consulting Radio Show. We'll be right back.